everyone, I'm Sara Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video is our second pattern in our Christmas in July 2022. Now I've got two washcloths. They are made exactly the same. The only difference is this one is all done in a variegated with the shell trim, and this one I striped it every 2 rows. I did the single crochet trim in yellow and then did the shell stitch trim. I love them both, and we called them the Holiday Washcloths because I did them in Christmas colors. Now you can do them in any colors that you want. Get in your yarn stash and just see what you have. You can do ombres, you can stripe it like I did, you can mix and match your yarns and just have a really fun time with these lovely holiday washcloths. Now they measure approximately 10 by 10 inches, but if you need a bigger washcloth, all the information for adjusting the pattern is on that blog link where I have the written pattern with pictures, as always, down in the notes underneath this video. So to make your holiday washcloth, you're going to need approximately 2 ounces of cotton yarn. You're going to need about 1.5 ounces of your main color and a little less than 1/2 ounce of your trim color. Now for today's demonstration, because the variegated is so difficult to see, I'm not going to use my variegated. I'm going to make a striped one with this green and yellow. Kind of reminds me of maybe an elf sweater or shirt. Green and yellow always makes me think of elves. And of course, you can use any colors of yarn that you have in your yarn stash. It doesn't have to be Christmas. It could be Halloween colors or fall colors, spring colors, 4th of July colors, any colors that you have in your yarn stash. We're just using Christmas colors because it's Christmas in July this week. So you'll need a total of 2 ounces, 1.5 ounces of your main color, and then about 1/2 ounce of your trim color. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in ends and a pair of scissors. And just a reminder, the sugar and cream and peaches and cream that I used are all medium weight number 4 cotton yarns. You can use any medium weight cotton yarns that you want to. So you're going to begin with your main color. I'm going to be striping with yellow and green, so I've got my green ready to go, and I'm going to begin with my yellow. You can stripe it, you can use variegateds, you can use ombres, whatever kinds of cotton that you want to use. We're going to begin with our slip knot, and then we're going to chain 28 chains. Once you've chained your 28 chains, we're going to stitch a single crochet and the second chain from the hook. There's the first one, here's the second one. And now we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of those chains, working all the way across our row. One single crochet in each of the chains across. Now if you're not changing colors here, go ahead and chain 1. But if you're changing colors like I am, you want to do your color change and then do your chain 1. And because we're changing colors every 2 rows, I'm not going to cut my yellow yarn. I'm going to trail it up the side. So now we're going to turn our work. Our chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We're going to half double crochet in the first 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and then in that next stitch we're going to stitch a half double crochet, chain 1, and half double crochet. And that is what we call a half double crochet V-stitch. Alright, so now we'll chain 1, we'll skip 2, and stitch a half double crochet V-stitch in this next stitch, which is a half double crochet, chain 1, and half double crochet in the same stitch. Chain 1, skip 2, and repeat. And you'll repeat this across this row. So I repeated that across, chain 1, skip 2, half double crochet V-stitch in the next, and you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that leaves you with 4 stitches at the end. We've chained 1, we're going to skip the next 2, and then 1 double crochet in the last 2 stitches. That one was a little bit snug. There we go. And chain 1, because I'm not changing colors. Just remember, on the rows that you change colors, you want to do your chain 1 after your color change. I'm not changing colors here, so I went ahead and chained 1. So let's do row 3. We've stitched our chain 1. We're going to turn our work. Move everything around there so we don't get all twisted up. Again, our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so we're going to half double crochet and the first 2 half double crochets. Chain 1, and now we're going to move to the first chain 1 space of that V-stitch and stitch our half double crochet V-stitch. Half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet in the chain 1 space, and chain 1. And we'll repeat this across. We'll stitch our half double crochet V-stitches in the chain 1 space of each of the V-stitches and chain 1. Whoops, got a string in the way there. There we go. Chain 1. Alright, so we're going to repeat this across. Chain 1, half double crochet V-stitches in each of those with our chain 1s in between, and then end with our 2 half double crochets. So I repeated that across in my 7 half double crochet V-stitches. We stitched a V-stitch with that chain 1 in between. So here's my chain 1, and now I'm just going to stitch a half double crochet in the last 2 half double crochet stitches. Now I am changing colors here, so I'm going to grab back up that yellow yarn, snug that green one down, and you'll see right here I trailed that yarn up, and we're going to do that on this side because I'm only changing colors on this side, and we're going every 2 rows. I'll have 2 rows of green, 2 rows of yellow. Okay, so I've chained 1 in my yellow, and we're going to turn our work and get the green one out of the way there so it's not in the way, and then we'll half double crochet in those first 2 half double crochets. Chain 1, and then again we'll stitch 1 half double crochet V-stitch in each of the chain 1 spaces of the V-stitches with our chain 1s in between. There we go. This yellow yarn is a little bit stiffer, than the green one. One is peaches and cream, one is sugar and cream, and the yellow one is the peaches and cream. It's a little bit stiffer. And one thing about making washcloths with 100% cotton yarn like this is it is a little bit stiff to stitch up, but once it goes through the wash, it just softens right up because it gets that sizing off the yarn that helps it hold its shape. All right, so we're going to continue across, stitching our half double crochet V stitches in the chain one spaces of our V stitches with our chain ones in between. And I think you're seeing already, this is a super easy pattern. I completed row 4. We have our 2 half double crochets, chain 1, and then our V stitches that are half double crochet V stitches, which again is a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet with our chain ones in between, and then the chain 1 and 1 half double crochet in the last 2. And what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 4 for an additional 15 rows. So you'll be stitching row 4 for 15 more rows. Now on this one, I'm striping every 2 rows, and that makes it so that I can carry my yarn only on this one side. So I'm going to do 2 rows of green, 2 rows of yellow, 2 rows of green, 2 rows of yellow for my repeat rows. But if you're doing it all in one color like this one, you'll just continue on up for 15 more rows, which you're going to continue on up for 15 more rows on this one as well. You're just alternating your colors. All right, so if you want to do it striped or all one color or all one yarn, it's done exactly the same. You're going to repeat row 4 for 15 more rows. I have completed those 15 additional rows. We did 4 and then we did 15, so that puts us at row 19. We have our solid row of single crochets and then our rows of our half double crochet V stitches with chain ones in between. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn and tie that off. And the reason we're doing that is we're going to make a trim, but we want it to be even. And we have this row of single crochet down here at the bottom. And I'm going to take the color that I started with, my yellow, and use that so that I have a solid row of single crochet around the edge of my washcloth. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to join in my yellow yarn right there in that first single crochet, and then I'll stitch a single crochet right in there. And we're not changing colors if you're doing the solid or the variegated. I changed colors because I want my trim on this edge to be yellow, and then I'm going to come back in with the white. Okay, on this one we did that single crochet row all the way around in our variegated and then changed to the white for the trim. All right, okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to evenly single crochet around the 3 remaining sides and join back over here to this single crochet. And when I come down this way, I'm going to stitch over those yarns that I trailed up the side so that I didn't have to cut my yarn every row. All right, so I'm just going to work down this first side, evenly single crocheting down the side. And the best way to get an even row of single crochets is to try to work in the stitches and not the holes if you can at all possible. All right, now I stitched a little bit over my tail of yarn. I'm going to come back in and weave that in with a needle, but I like to kind of start it that way. It just makes it easier, I think, for weaving that in. So I'm just going to evenly work single crochet stitches down the side, and then when I get to that corner, I'm going to stitch 3 single crochets in the corner and then evenly work across the bottom. 3 single crochets in the next corner and then evenly work up that last side and join to that first row of single crochets. So we joined down here. I evenly single crochet down across here. I stitched 3 single crochets in this corner. Then I evenly single crocheted across the top and stitched 3 single crochets in this corner. And now I'm going to work down this side that has all the yarns that we trailed across. And the reason I wanted to show you this is I just want to show you that when you're stitching your single crochet stitches evenly, go around those stitches that we trailed across, or those, not really stitches, the yarn portions. That way they're caught in that single crochet row and they won't be seen on the washcloth. They won't be dangling anywhere or in the way. We'll just single crochet over them and make it look nice and tidy. Oops, looks like I got a string in there. There we go. And those ends, you can single crochet over them. Just make sure you come back in with your needle and weave those in properly, okay? Because again, when you're doing a washcloth, it's going to go through the laundry and you want those ends to stay in. All right, so I'm going to finish single crocheting up here, then we'll join up here, and then we'll add that pretty white trim. So I have evenly stitched around my sides. I have 3 single crochets in my corner. Here's my last single crochet up here. I'm going to join to that first single crochet on that beginning row of single crochet. And I went ahead and cut my yarn. Now the last row we're going to do is a shell stitch row, just to give it a little bit of fun. And so what we'll do is we'll bring in our white and we'll stitch those shell stitches. So the way we're going to stitch the shell stitch trim is we'll slip stitch in the next stitch. We're going to skip the next and then shell stitch in the next. And our shell stitch is 3 double crochets, all stitched in the same stitch. We'll skip the next and slip stitch in the next. We'll skip the next and shell stitch in the next, which again is 3 double crochets. And this gives us a nice edge, kind of reminds me of snow. There we go. Skip the next, slip stitch in the next, skip the next, and shell stitch in the next. And we'll repeat this working all the way around all 4 sides of our washcloth. So we'll stitch our shell stitches with our slip stitches in between all the way around all 4 sides and join back over here. So I've done my shell stitches all the way around my 4 sides, and here I'm getting ready to join. Now, because we don't have a set number of stitches on the sides, your shell stitches may not work out exactly. So what you can do is, instead of skipping one, you can go ahead and slip stitch in the next stitch. That way you can skip the next one and do your shell stitch. You may have to skip one, you may have to skip 2 in order to get it to lay right and for it to meet up okay. It's not going to hurt anything if you have to skip an extra one or not skip, just that one time there, just so that everything lines up, because you want it to look nice and pretty. All right, I'm going to pull that loop to the back and tie off to the back. Now I have weaved in most of my ends, but I do have a couple here to deal with. But that is our holiday washcloth. And someone made a comment about what if someone doesn't want holes in their washcloth. One thing that we all know about cotton yarn is once it goes through the wash, it swells up a little bit and it won't have very many holes in it. And this type of washcloth still works really great with these little holes in it anyway. It's super pretty, super lacy, and makes a nice washcloth. And here's our other one that I did in the variegated, just so that you can see how it looks with a striped effect and a variegated effect. Two really fun, pretty washcloths that you can do in any colors of cotton that you have on hand.